And have you ever stopped to consider how the concept of masculinity is evolving in today's political landscape? It's not just about political ideologies anymore. It's a deep-rooted transformation of what it means to be a man in modern society. At a recent event in Maine, Douglas Emhoff, husband of Vice President Kamala Harris, highlighted this shift, shocked by Donald Trump's remarks about journalist Rachel Scott and Senator Harris's the racial identity. Emhoff emphasized the striking contrast between the two camps. On one side, there are those who cling to outdated ideas of masculinity, fueled by resentment towards women and their empowerment. On the other hand, a new breed of Democrat is rising, comfortable with taking a supportive role while fiercely advocating for women's rights and equality. Figures like Emhoff and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz exemplify this change. After his wife's historic nomination, Walz championed the law ensuring free menstrual products in schools, earning himself the moniker Tampon Tim from critics. Despite their imperfections, these men are part of a movement pushing for a different kind of strength, one rooted in women's empowerment and active citizenship. Meanwhile, the opposing camp remains entrenched in archaic perspectives on women, often reducing them to mere objects or dismissing them entirely. Their choices in music, speeches, and endorsements reflect this alarmingly backward stance. Yet, beyond the surface lies something far more disturbing. Modern conservatism seems increasingly aligned with toxic online communities promoting misogyny under the guise of protecting cultural values. Alarmingly, influencing figures like Andrew Tate and Elon Musk echo these sentiments, further legitimizing damaging narratives against women. Republicans may claim otherwise, but their actions suggest otherwise. They rail against perceived threats to traditional family structures while simultaneously restricting access to fertility treatments and disregarding essential services for mothers and babies. While the Democratic Party champions reproductive rights and inclusivity, the GOP continues down a dangerous path. By perpetuating divisive stereotypes and stifling progress, they risk alienating future generations who will be forced voting on a judgment and started for a more inclusive vision of leadership. As a judgment will be driven and stand today by ranging future infexes. And don't forget, so next time you hear someone touting old-fashioned views of masculinity, remember this: real strength comes from understanding, respect, and genuine support for all members of society, regardless gender. And if anyone tells you differently, well, that's just weird. With that said, thanks for tuning in and stay engaged, folks.